Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. Here I am in Chelsea, London, on Chelsea Embankment. And behind me you can see Turner's Ancient House. That's where the Marquess of Ripon lived and indeed died. The first Marquess of Ripon, who was Viceroy of India. That's to say, when India was a British colony, he was governing it. Because the monarch at the time, Queen Victoria, she never went to India. She very rarely left these shores. So she was proclaimed Empress of India in 1876. So she wasn't going to go out. Her son Edward VII went out and held the Delhi Durbar. Durbar could be palace, I suppose. So that was just north of Old Delhi. New Delhi wasn't begun until about 1910. And they summoned hundreds of various Indian princes at various titles: Maharaja, Raja, Gaekwar, Khan, and so forth, to do homage to him on behalf of his mother. But anyway, back to our man, who's Robinson. So he was born at number 10 Downing Street, the only Viceroy of India to be born in the Prime Minister's official residence, because at that time his father was Prime Minister. So his father was Frederick Robinson. Our man here is George Frederick Robinson, and indeed he's named his son Frederick too. He got his middle name from his father. So his family had been merchants in Yorkshire in the 16th century and made a fortune. And then they'd been ennobled, and they had the title Viscount Goderich. I know some people think it's pronounced Goderich or Goderich, but it's known as Goderich. But they were raised to be Earl of Ripon. So Ripon's a town in North Yorkshire where they had extensive estates. Because after they made money in business, they thought it was far grander to be a bit like Blue Blood and Broad Acres, to have lots of farmland. That was considered the most respectable way to earn a living, was to have tons of farmland, because sullying your hand with trade was not quite the done thing. Even accounting companies, they like to forget that and then pretend that they were really from old money. Where some people say, you're not a real peer. You were only ennobled in the 17th century. But back to this Marquess of Ripon. So he never attended school. He was schooled by preceptors who came to him, nor indeed did he go on to university. Most unusual, because his father had done both. So he entered Parliament, and he was a Liberal. And in all the Liberal cabinets from 1861, with the formation of the Liberal Party as we know it, until he died in 1909. Of course, a lot of the time the Liberals were out of government and the Tories were in government. So he was an independent-minded man. He agreed with Irish Home Rule, which not everyone in the Liberal Party did. About a third of them left in 1885 when it became clear that Gladstone, the Liberal leader, was going for it. Now it was 1880 when the Liberals came back into office. Disraeli was out, died the next year. Gladstone was back in, and so Gladstone said, well, we'll get rid of that Lord Lytton, who was appointed by the Earl of Beaconsfield, i.e. by Disraeli, and I shall replace him with a man of my own political outlook. So he dispatched Lord Ripon out there. So Lord Ripon, he'd been a diplomat beforehand, and so but this was the first time he'd been to India. So he set sail, landed in Bombay, as he then would have called it, to be received by the public. Although the Gateway of India had not been built, that was the grandest way to arrive in India, and monarchs were to arrive there. But anyway, then he proceeded to Calcutta, as it was pronounced. It was then the capital of India, or Kolkata as it is now. It's the seat of viceroys, and the viceroy's residence there is based on Kedleston Hall, as in the Marquis Curzon of Kedleston's house somewhere in the West Midlands. And later on, Lord Curzon actually went to India's viceroy in 1899, and of course his residence was a facsimile of his family's home. Anyway, so Lord Ripon served for 4 years, had to deal with various issues. Famine, some people mishandled that one. The Ilbert Bill granted greater powers to Indian magistrates to adjudicate cases involving whites, but the tiny white community raised hell over that, so on, so we can't possibly have this, and the whole thing was dropped, which is bad news, and soured racial relations for some time. But it was a time of stability and economic growth. That was really taking off. India had recovered from the mutiny of the First War of National Independence, as some would call it. Many people say that was a bad thing because they would want to break away from British Raj. But the Indian National Congress was founded just after his time, 1885. but very few Indians seem to want independence or even think it was possible, if it was desirable. So these challenges were to come later. So that is him, and then after 4 years he retired. He came back here, but he was involved in politics right up until 1909. We retired as Viceroy. He was married. He had 2 children, or more, was it more? But anyway, certainly a son who succeeded him as the second Marquess of Ripon, because he had been Earl of Ripon. On account of his meritorious service as Viceroy of India, he was raised to the Marquessate. A number of things are named after him in India, and he's got a particularly good reputation in Tamil. What else about him? But he had no grandson, so the title died with his son. But anyway, I always thought it was fascinating. He was such a mighty person. Now, he wasn't such a prancing proconsul as people had been a generation earlier, because of the telegraph and the instantaneous communications with London. He didn't have such wide freedom of action as they'd had previously. That was circumscribed because he was superintended by the UK a bit more. But, so this is where he lived and died, and he'd been in India and he'd seen such a gigantic country, such a very different country in those warmer climes. And here he was, and this is what he was looking out to when he retired, out onto the Thames, on the north bank of the Thames, looking out onto the Thames over Battersea Park, which in his lifetime was granted to the public. There you can see the Japanese Peace Temple. So yeah, that was his view, quite different, and here he could reflect on his time in Hindustan. Anyway, that's enough about Marquess of Ripon. Signing off now. Toodaloo.